Most people think fighting life makes them stronger, but it's actually what's breaking them. What if your suffering isn't from life itself, but from your refusal to accept it? Imagine holding everything together, your plans, your expectations, your control, yet inside, something keeps breaking. The truth is unsettling. The struggle you think is saving you is silently destroying your peace. In the teachings of Lord Buddha, there is a truth most never dare to face. What you resist does not weaken, it strengthens. You don't need proof, just look at your own life. How often has forcing things actually worked? Your doorway to calm, clarity, and timeless Buddhist insight. In this video, you'll discover why acceptance is not weakness, but the highest form of power, and a bonus lesson at the end may change how you see suffering forever. Stay with me. Stop arguing with reality. What if every moment of your suffering is not caused by life, but by a quiet argument you are with it? Not with people, not with fate, but with what already is. Reality needs no permission to exist, and yet, somewhere within you, there is a voice still whispering, "This should not be happening." Can you feel the tension in that whisper? A monk once said, "Suffering begins the you say no to what cannot be changed." You lose a job, and the mind resists. A relationship shifts, and the heart protests. Life moves in its own rhythm, but you stand there, like a man shouting at the ocean to stop its waves. Notice this carefully. Does the ocean ever listen? Or does it simply continue while you grow tired, frustrated, and empty? Now pause. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine dropping every argument you are holding against life. The expectations, the should have been, the quiet resistance. Just let it fall. Feel that sudden silence where conflict once lived. This is not defeat. This is clarity. The moment you stop fighting reality, reality stops feeling like a burden. But here is the deeper question. If you are not fighting life, what are you doing instead? In your daily life, this resistance hides in subtle ways. You scroll endlessly, avoiding what is uncomfortable. You replay conversations, wishing they were different. You delay decisions, hoping reality will bend in your favor. But it never does. And each moment you resist, you suffer twice. Once from the event, and once from your refusal to accept it. So ask yourself honestly, what are you currently refusing to accept? How much energy have you already wasted fighting something that has already happened? Acceptance is not weakness. It is the highest form of intelligence. It does not mean you stop acting. It means you stop reacting blindly. When you accept, your mind becomes still enough to see clearly. And in that clarity, the right action reveals itself without force. But if you keep arguing, how will you ever hear that quiet wisdom within? So tonight, sit with this truth. Who would you be without this inner resistance? Not stronger, not weaker, but freer. And remember this, you are not suffering because life is against you. You are suffering because you are against life. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "I trust my path." 2. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is resistance. Why do two people walk through the same pain, yet one finds a quiet peace, while the other slowly breaks inside? The answer is subtle, almost invisible. Pain touches the body, resistance chains the mind. Look closely. Pain arrives uninvited, but suffering is something you continue long after the moment has passed. And the deeper question is, are you truly hurting, or are you holding on to the hurt? A monk once shared this gently. Pain is part of being alive. Loss, failure, rejection, these are not mistakes in life, they are life. But suffering begins when the mind says, "This should not be happening to me." In that moment, you are no longer just feeling pain, you are fighting it. And that fight quietly drains your strength. So ask yourself, are you allowing the moment, or are you resisting it? Imagine this clearly. You are standing in the rain, no shelter, no escape. At first, you tense up, you curse the sky, you wish it would stop, but the rain does not listen, it keeps falling. Now, something shifts. You stop resisting, you let the rain touch your skin, and strangely, the struggle fades. The rain is still there, but the storm inside you dissolves. Pain is the rain, suffering is the storm you create by refusing to get wet. In your daily life, notice how quickly you label moments as bad. A delay becomes frustration, a mistake becomes self-hate, a difficult conversation becomes a wound you replay for days. But what if the moment itself is neutral, and it is your resistance that gives it weight? What happens if you stop calling it bad and simply call it what is? Can you sit with discomfort without turning it into a story of suffering? This is where real transformation begins, not by avoiding pain, but by meeting it without resistance. When you stop adding meaning, the pain moves through you instead of staying within you. It softens, it passes, but if you resist, you carry it, and it becomes part of you. So reflect honestly, am I suffering from the pain or from my reaction to it? And here is the quiet truth that changes everything. You don't need to control life to find peace, you only need to stop resisting it. Because the moment you allow pain without fighting it, you discover something unexpected within you, a calm that no storm can touch. 3. Release the illusion of how it should be. How much of your frustration is truly caused by life, and how much of it is born from the silent expectations you carry? Look closely. Beneath every disappointment, there is an invisible sentence. This is not how it was supposed to be. Expectation is the quiet architect of disappointment, and without even noticing, you begin measuring life against a version that only exists in your mind. A monk once held up an empty hand and said, "Peace is not found in controlling life, but in releasing your grip on how it should look." You planned a path, a perfect sequence, career, relationships, timing, all carefully imagined. But life rarely follows your design, and instead of adapting, the mind resists. It clings to an image, and that image becomes a source of quiet suffering. So ask yourself, are you living what is real, or are you chasing what was imagined? Picture this gently. You are holding a blueprint of your perfect life, every detail, every outcome, carefully drawn. But in front of you, life is building something entirely different, and the more you compare, the heavier you feel. Now, imagine tearing that apart, slowly, completely. Let the pieces fall, and notice what remains. Not emptiness, but lightness, a strange freedom in no longer needing life to match your design. In your daily life, expectations hide in subtle forms. You expect people to understand you without words. You expect success to come within a timeline. You expect happiness to look a certain way. And when it doesn't, frustration rises. But what if the problem is not life's outcome, but your attachment to a specific outcome? What expectations are silently controlling your peace right now? There is a deeper truth most people avoid. Expectation creates a contract that life never signed, and each time life breaks that contract, you feel betrayed. But life was never against you, it was simply unfolding without your conditions. So what happens if you stop demanding and start allowing? Who would you become if you let life move without interference? This is not about giving up your dreams, it is about releasing your attachment to how they must happen. When you drop the illusion of how it should be, you begin to see clearly what is possible, and in that clarity, peace quietly enters. Remember this, your suffering does not come from life being imperfect, it comes from expecting it to be perfect. 4. Let go when it feels impossible. Why does letting go feel the hardest? Exactly when you need it the most. Notice this carefully. The moment something begins to hurt you deeply, you don't release it. You hold it tighter, a memory, a person, a version of life that is already gone. And in that grip, something inside you whispers, "If I let go, I will lose everything." But is that true? Or is it fear speaking? The tighter the grip, the deeper the wound. A monk once placed a small coal in his hand and said, "Observe this. At first it is warm, then it burns. But instead of dropping it, you close your fist tighter, hoping the pain will fade." This is how attachment works. You hold on to what hurts you and call it love, control, or loyalty. But look honestly, does it bring peace, or does it slowly exhaust you? 5. Pause for a moment. Feel your hand tightly holding something heavy, not just physically, but emotionally, the weight of expectations, regret, a relationship that no longer feels like home. Now slowly, open your hand, let it go. Notice that instant shift. The relief is not dramatic, it is quiet, almost unfamiliar, because you are so used to carrying pain that freedom feels strange at first. In your daily life, letting go does not always mean leaving a person or situation. Sometimes it means releasing the story you keep repeating. The "why did this happen to me?" The "it should have been different." The mind holds on to these narratives, believing they offer control, but they only deepen the wound. So ask yourself, what am I truly afraid will happen if I let go? There is a hidden truth here. Holding on feels like safety, but it is often just prolonged suffering. You think you are protecting yourself from loss, but in reality you are preventing healing. Because healing only begins when you stop reopening the wound with your thoughts. So reflect deeply, is holding on truly protecting you or quietly hurting you? Letting go is not weakness. It is an act of courage. It is choosing peace over attachment, clarity over control. And on the other side of that release, something unexpected is waiting. Not emptiness, but space. Space to breathe, space to begin again. Remember this, what you refuse to release will continue to weigh you down, but the moment you let go, even when it feels impossible, you take your first step toward freedom. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "I trust my path." 5. Detachment is not indifference. How can you care deeply without losing yourself in the process? This is where many people become confused. They believe that to be peaceful, they must stop feeling, that to be strong, they must become distant. But look closely, this is not wisdom, it is quiet avoidance. True freedom is not in shutting down your heart, it is in learning how to hold emotions without being consumed by them. So ask yourself, are you protecting your peace or slowly disconnecting from life? To feel without drowning, that is mastery. A monk once said, "Detachment is not about pushing life away, it is about no longer clinging to it." You can love someone without making them the center of your identity. You can experience sadness without becoming the sadness. But when attachment takes over, you don't just feel emotions, you become them, and in that moment, you lose your clarity. So, what are you truly experiencing right now? Emotion or entanglement? Imagine this gently. Your thoughts and emotions are like clouds moving across the sky. Some are heavy, some are light, some bring storms, but you are not the cloud, you are the sky. The sky does not chase the clouds, nor does it resist them. It simply allows them to pass. Now, feel this within you, that quiet space that observes everything without being shaken by it. This is what detachment feels like, not cold, not distant, but deeply present. In your daily life, attachment often disguises itself as care. You overthink because you care, you worry because you care, you hold on because you care. But notice how quickly care turns into suffering when you lose yourself in it. When your peace depends on someone else's actions, when your emotions depend on outcomes you cannot control, you are no longer present, you are attached. So ask yourself honestly, am I simply present with this moment, or am I tied to how it must unfold? There is a subtle power in observing without absorbing. You still feel everything, but nothing controls you. You still care. But you are not consumed. This is not indifference. This is balance, a deep inner stability that allows you to move through life with openness without losing yourself along the way. Remember this, peace does not come from feeling less. It comes from holding everything without letting it hold you. 6. Acceptance is the highest form of control. What if everything you were taught about control is quietly misleading you? What if true control does not come from forcing life to obey you, but from learning to allow it? Notice how exhausting it feels to constantly fix, change, and predict everything, and still, life slips through your plans. So the deeper question arises, are you truly in control, or just trapped in the illusion of it? A monk once said softly, "What you accept, you transcend." At first, this feels backwards. The mind believes that acceptance means giving up, that if you stop controlling, everything will fall apart. But look closely. Has your control ever truly worked the way you wanted, or has it only created tension, fear, and disappointment? The more you try to force life, the more rigid you become, and rigidity is where suffering begins. Imagine yourself as water, flowing, not resisting. When water meets a rock, it does not argue, it does not stop, it simply moves around it, effortlessly, patiently. Over time, even the hardest stone is shaped by its softness. Now feel this within you. What if your strength was not in pushing harder, but in flowing wiser? What if nothing could stop you because you no longer resisted anything? In your daily life, control hides in subtle forms. You try to control how people see you. You try to control outcomes, timing, results. You replay conversations, trying to rewrite them in your mind. But the more you hold on, the more anxious you feel. Because deep down, you know you cannot control most of what happens. So ask yourself honestly, where am I trying to control the uncontrollable? Here is the turning point. When you stop forcing outcomes, something unexpected happens. Your mind becomes clear, your actions become precise. You respond instead of react. Acceptance does not make you passive, it makes you powerful. Because now, your energy is no longer wasted on resistance. It is directed toward what can actually be done. So reflect deeply. Can surrender be strength instead of weakness? Can you allow life to unfold without losing your center? Because the truth is simple, yet difficult to live. Control is not about changing reality. It is about mastering your response to it. Remember this, when you stop trying to control everything, you finally gain control over yourself. 7. Your mind creates the prison. What if the cage you feel trapped in doesn't actually exist? Sit with that for a moment. You say, I can't move forward, I can't change, I'm stuck. But who told you this? Life or your mind? The mind builds walls where none exist, and over time, you begin to believe those walls are real. So tell me honestly, are you truly trapped? Or have you just stopped questioning the voice that says you are? A monk once observed, the most invisible prison is the one you carry within. It is built from beliefs you never examined. I am not enough. I will fail. This will never change. These thoughts repeat so often, they begin to feel like truth. But repetition is not truth. It is conditioning. And the moment you believe every thought without question, you hand over your freedom without even realizing it. Picture this clearly. You are a bird sitting inside a cage. The bars feel strong. The space feels small. You look out, but you do not move. Why? Because you believe the door is closed. Now, slowly, look again. The door is open. It has always been open. Yet you remain inside, not because you are trapped, but because you are convinced you are. What changes the moment you see this? In your daily life, this prison appears in quiet ways. You hesitate to take action because you assume failure. You avoid opportunities because you doubt yourself. You stay in situations that drain you because you believe you have no choice. But pause here. Is this suffering coming from reality or from the story your mind keeps repeating? What beliefs are silently shaping your limits right now? Here is the turning point. The mind creates thoughts, but you give them authority. And the moment you begin to question them, something shifts. Not every thought deserves your trust. Not every fear deserves your obedience. When you step back and observe, you create space. And in that space, the walls begin to fade. So ask yourself gently, what happens if I stop believing everything I think? What if this limitation is not a fact, but a habit? Because the truth is simple, yet powerful. You are not inside the prison. The prison is inside you. Remember this, the door was never locked. You only needed the courage to see it and step out. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're sure what to say, just type, I trust my path. 8. Stop chasing, start allowing. Why is it that the more you chase something, the further it seems to move away? Success, love, peace. You run faster, try harder, push more, and yet it slips through your fingers. What you run after runs from you, and somewhere deep within, a quiet frustration grows. So ask yourself honestly, are you moving toward peace, or are you running away from the feeling of not having it? A monk once said, the restless mind believes that fulfillment is always somewhere else, in the next achievement, the next relationship, the next version of yourself. And so, you keep chasing. But in that chase, you send a message to your own mind. What I have right now is not enough. And that belief becomes the root of your dissatisfaction. Tell me, if you cannot be at peace in this moment, what makes you believe the next one will be different? Imagine standing by still water, trying to catch your own reflection. The more you reach, the more the surface breaks. The image distorts. You try harder, and it only gets worse. Now stop, completely. Let your hands fall. Let the water settle, and watch. Without effort, without force, the reflection becomes clear. This is the nature of life. Clarity does not come from chasing, it comes from allowing. In your daily life, this chasing appears in subtle ways. You chase validation through others' approval. You chase happiness by trying to control every outcome. You chase productivity, believing rest is a weakness. But the harder you pursue, the more anxious you become, because chasing creates resistance. It keeps your mind in a constant state of not yet. So pause here. What are you desperately chasing right now? Here is the quiet turning point. When you stop chasing, you do not lose your goals. You lose your desperation. You still act, you still move forward, but without tension, without attachment. And in that space, things begin to come to you naturally. Opportunities, clarity, even peace. They arise when your mind is no longer forcing them. So ask yourself, what happens if I allow this moment instead of trying to escape it? Remember this, what you are seeking is not hiding from you. It is waiting for you to stop chasing. 9. This moment is enough. What if the peace you've been searching for is not somewhere in the future, but quietly waiting for you here? Not after success, not after everything falls into place, but in this exact moment. Nothing is missing, only unnoticed. And yet, the mind keeps moving to what's next, what's wrong, what's incomplete. So pause here and ask yourself, what is actually lacking right now? A monk once said, the greatest illusion is that this moment is not enough. You sit in a room, your body is safe, your breath is steady, yet your mind is somewhere else, replaying the past, anticipating the future. And in doing so, you overlook the only place where life truly exists, right here, right now. Tell me, are you living this moment, or are you constantly escaping it? Imagine this clearly. You are standing in the middle of a river surrounded by water, yet you are searching desperately for something to drink. This is how most people live, surrounded by life, yet convinced something is missing. Not because it truly is, but because attention is always elsewhere. What changes when you finally stop searching and start noticing? Take a slow breath, not to change anything, just to feel it. The air moving in, the quiet pause, the release. Notice the simplicity of this. No struggle, no effort, just presence. And in this presence, something becomes clear. This moment is not incomplete. It does not need fixing. It does not need improvement. It only asks to be experienced. So ask yourself gently, am I here or am I lost in thought? In your daily life, the habit of not enough shows up everywhere. You achieve something and immediately look for the next goal. You finish one task and feel restless without another. Even in moments of rest, the mind whispers, you should be doing more. But what if that voice is the very thing stealing your peace? What if completeness is not something you achieve, but something you recognize? Here is the quiet truth most people miss. When you fully arrive in this moment, the search ends. Not because everything is perfect, but because nothing is missing. And from this place, your actions become lighter, clearer, more intentional. Remember this: peace is not found in the next moment. It is found the moment you stop leaving this one. 10. Surrender ends the struggle. What happens when you finally stop trying to win against life? Not fix it, not control it, not force it into your shape. Just stop fighting, because if you look honestly, much of your exhaustion is not from what you carry, but from the constant battle you are waging within. The war ends when you drop the sword. So ask yourself, what are you still trying to defeat that no longer needs a fight? A monk once said, most struggles are not with reality, but with your refusal to accept it. You argue with what has already happened. You resist what cannot be undone. And in that resistance, you create a silent war inside your own mind. But here is the truth. Life is not your enemy. It never was. The moment you stop treating it like one, something inside you begins to soften. But if you keep fighting, how will peace ever enter? Imagine this clearly. You have been holding a heavy sword for years, defending yourself, proving yourself, fighting battles no one else can see. Your arms are tired, your mind restless. But still, you refuse to put it down. Now, slowly, release it. Let it fall. Feel the weight leave your body. Notice the space that opens. This is what surrender feels like. Not loss, but relief. In your daily life, this struggle hides in small moments. You need to be right in every argument. You replay situations, trying to justify yourself. You hold on to anger, believing it gives you strength. But does it? Or does it quietly drain you day after day? So reflect deeply. What battle am I still fighting that is no longer serving me? Here is the turning point most people miss. Surrender is not giving up on life. It is giving up the illusion that you must control everything to be okay. It means choosing peace over pride, understanding over resistance. And in that choice, something changes. You stop reacting without thinking and start responding with clarity. So ask yourself gently, who would I be without this struggle? There is a quiet freedom waiting on the other side of surrender. Not because life becomes easier, but because you stop making it harder. You stop fighting shadows in the dark and finally turn on the light. And in that light, you see clearly there was nothing to fight at all. Remember this. Peace begins the moment you choose to put the sword down. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "I trust my path." 11. Freedom begins where resistance ends. Why do so few people feel true peace, even though it is always there? Not somewhere far away, not saved for a chosen few, but quietly present here beneath everything you feel. The answer is simple, but not easy to accept. You are not missing peace. You are resisting it. Freedom is not something you find. It is something you uncover. And what you are trying to find may already be here, waiting beneath the noise of your resistance. A monk once said, "Freedom does not come when life becomes perfect. It appears when your struggle with life ends. You keep searching for the right moment, the right condition, the right result. But peace is not something that comes to you when everything aligns. It is something that shows itself when you stop pushing against what already is. So ask yourself, what am I still resisting right now? Picture this gently. A sky covered with dark, heavy clouds. It feels as if the sky itself has disappeared. But has it? Or is it only hidden? Now watch closely. The clouds begin to fade, slowly and quietly, and behind them, the open sky was always there, untouched and unchanged. This is your peace. Not something you create, but something you uncover. What happens when you stop focusing on the clouds and remember the sky? In your daily life, resistance often feels justified. You resist discomfort. You resist uncertainty. You resist outcomes you did not choose. But every act of resistance creates tension. It narrows your awareness. It keeps you trapped in a loop of dissatisfaction. And the longer you resist, the more distant peace begins to feel. But is peace really gone? Or is it only covered by your refusal to accept? Here is the turning point. Total acceptance is not passive. It is powerful. When you accept fully, without inner argument, something opens within you. Your mind becomes quiet. Your body relaxes. And in that stillness, you experience a freedom that does not depend on circumstances. So, reflect deeply. What would total acceptance feel like in this moment? There is a question only you can answer. Are you ready to be free? Not later, not when life changes, but now. By letting go of the one thing standing in your way, your resistance. Remember this. Freedom does not begin when life changes. It begins the moment you stop resisting it. Bonus: become untouchable through acceptance. What if there was a way to move through life where nothing could truly disturb you again? Not because life becomes easier, but because you become steady within it. This is not numbness. This is not escape. This is something much deeper. When nothing is resisted, nothing can shake you. And the question is, what are you still allowing to control your inner state? A monk once said, "The world does not have the power to disturb you unless you give it permission." Someone speaks harshly. You react. A plan fails. You fall apart. An outcome changes. You resist. But look closely. Is it the event that breaks you, or your attachment to how it should have been? When you stop resisting, you stop feeding the disturbance. And slowly, your inner world becomes steady. So reflect. What am I still giving power over my peace? Now feel this deeply. Imagine yourself as a mountain, grounded, still, unmoving. Storms arrive, strong winds, heavy rain, thunder echoing through the sky. But the mountain does not chase the storm, nor does it fight it. It remains. And eventually, every storm passes. This is what acceptance creates within you. Not control over the storm, but strength through it. Can you feel the power in that stillness? In your daily life, being untouchable does not mean avoiding emotion. It means you no longer lose yourself inside it. You feel anger, but it does not control your actions. You feel sadness, but it does not define who you are. You experience uncertainty, but it does not shake your center, because deep within, you understand. Everything is temporary, and nothing needs to be resisted. Here is the deeper shift. The moment you accept everything as it is, you stop depending on life to feel okay. Your peace is no longer fragile. It does not rise and fall with circumstances. It becomes something within you. Stable. Quietly powerful. So ask yourself honestly, what would it mean to be emotionally unshakable? This is the path most people ignore. They try to control the outside world instead of mastering the inside. But true strength is not in changing life. It is in staying centered no matter what life brings. And that strength is built moment by moment through acceptance. Remember this. When you stop resisting anything, you become someone that nothing can disturb. Quick summary of principles. Stop arguing with reality. Suffering begins the moment you reject what already is. True peace is not found in changing reality, but in ending the inner conflict against it. Every argument with life drains your energy without changing the outcome. The moment you stop resisting reality, clarity replaces chaos. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is resistance. Pain is a natural part of life, but suffering is created by your reaction to it. When you mentally fight discomfort, you increase its intensity. Acceptance reduces the mental burden, even when pain remains. Freedom begins when you stop turning temporary pain into lasting suffering. Release the illusion of how it should be. Expectations quietly create disappointment by opposing what is real. The more rigid your view of life becomes, the more fragile your peace becomes. Letting go of should allows you to experience what truly is. Peace enters when you stop expecting life to follow your script. Let go when it feels impossible. The hardest attachments often hide the deepest pain. Holding on does not preserve anything, it extends suffering. Letting go is not loss, but the end of inner struggle. Real strength appears the moment you release what you cannot control. Detachment is not indifference. Detachment allows you to experience life without being controlled by it. It is not emotional numbness, but emotional clarity. You stay engaged without losing your center. True balance comes from feeling deeply without becoming overwhelmed. Acceptance is the highest form of control. Control is not forcing outcomes, but mastering your response. Acceptance aligns you with reality instead of exhausting you against it. When you stop resisting, you gain mental stability and clarity. True power is the ability to stay undisturbed by circumstances. Your mind creates the lens. Most limits exist in thought patterns, not reality. Beliefs and perceptions shape your experience more than external events. When you question your thinking, you weaken its control. Freedom begins the moment you see through your mental patterns. Stop chasing, start allowing. Constant chasing creates tension and pushes fulfillment further away. When you relax your grip, things begin to align naturally. Forcing outcomes often leads to frustration and imbalance. Allowing creates space for clarity, timing, and natural growth. This moment is enough. Peace is always available in the present moment, not in the future. The mind runs toward what is next, missing what already is. When you fully enter the present, the feeling of lack disappears. Contentment begins when you see that nothing is missing right now. Surrender ends the struggle. The need to win against life creates unnecessary conflict. Surrender is not defeat. It is the end of resistance. When you stop fighting, your energy returns to awareness and growth. Peace begins the moment you release the need to control everything. Freedom begins where resistance ends. Resistance blocks clarity, peace, and inner stability. The absence of resistance reveals a natural state of calm. Freedom is not achieved outside, but uncovered within. When resistance fades, peace becomes effortless, become untouchable through acceptance. Emotional stability comes from not resisting external events. When nothing disturbs your inner state, true strength appears. Acceptance removes the power of circumstances over you. You become unshakable when you stop reacting and start allowing. In the end, life was never your enemy. It never asked you to fight, to control, or to suffer. It only asked you to see clearly. Every moment you resist, you create distance from peace. And every moment you accept, you return to yourself. The truth is simple, yet hard to live. The more you let go, the more whole you become. Acceptance does not mean life becomes perfect. It means your mind becomes peaceful, even with imperfection. This is the essence of Zen philosophy. Nothing to add, nothing to remove, nothing to force, just this moment as it is, and within it, a quiet freedom that has always been waiting for you. So pause for a moment and ask yourself, what am I still resisting that is taking away my peace? If this message resonated with you, take a moment to like and share this video, and share your thoughts in the comments below. And do not miss more powerful Buddhist insights on living a peaceful, centered, and aware life.